firefighters are now finally on their way up to those homes. And if we pan on over, the house right next door looks like it's okay, but we know with these embers and the wind is once again picking up, it's another dangerous situation with a lot of heavy black, dark gray smoke that we're dealing with. But now we're starting to see those emergency officials make it up the hill. But you're right, to your point, Lou, a lot of people it was such a chaotic situation. Everyone was on top of each other. Everyone was trying to get down to PCH, to a safer situation. People with their cats and dogs, loved ones, kids, grabbing whatever they could. And the folks here, for some reason, they said, I can't deal with this, took their keys and just left their cars.
Well, the thing is,
this is
Gene,
the
it's not like
after the.
It's not like one person did that or a handful. Like, you're looking at 40 plus cars of people.
200.
He said 200.
Or 200 freaking out,
I said 200.
I mean, what does it take for you to leave your car somewhere,
It's one of those situations where, quite honestly, I think people thought, oh my gosh, if I don't get out of this car now, what if the car gets on fire?
Yes.
Nobody wants to be in that situation too. And we were in that panic situation over at Palisades and Sunset. So once again, we're not putting blame on anybody. We're just saying that this is an emergency situation. People were so freaked out. This is what they did. They left their cars. Other people just started running with bags and luggage. People just trying to get out. They're not trying to be unkind to each other, if you will. They just don't know what to do.
And
so
again,
it's like
also
that
too, it's just
panic.
a vehicle.
Yeah.
You can.
Hopefully these folks have insurance and it can be replaced. But they said, forget the car, even if it's a nice vehicle. I need to get out of here, because that's the most important message, though, is people need to get out with their lives. So at least these folks did. But yeah, this is the mess. It almost looks like one of those horrible movie sets. It looks unbelievable from here right now.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see what the reaction to these people's auto insurance companies is going to be, because as actor Steve Guttenberg said, if they didn't leave their keys in the car, not so sure, they may not cover it. You just never know. So a lot of people are going to suffer some huge losses here, whether it be their autos, their homes.
Well, Gene, hopefully firefighters have been able to make it up to that next hill where that one particular home looks like it's going to be a complete loss, but the other home's still standing there. At least they're able to move up into that area to start that firefight.
Yeah, so it looks like, unfortunately, that house, I'm not exactly sure how big it is, but it looks pretty big from this hill. But the next door neighbor, we're starting to see a little bit of a fire. There's firefighters at the neighbor's house, and this looks like a very big building. A lot of firefighters out on the back patio there. So they have made their way up. So that once they cleared this path, they are now up there. They're checking the homes. They're making sure people are out. If there is anybody inside, they're telling them to get out quickly. But, I did happen to interview Steve Guttenberg, and during the emergency situation and the low visibility, I didn't realize, oh my gosh, this is the actor from Cocoon and 3 Men and a Baby. But he is very much a good Samaritan. He was out here about 2 hours ago telling people about this situation. Don't just ditch your car and leave the keys in there. At least leave I guess in emergency situation, firefighters saying, if you freak out, that's okay, but maybe leave your keys in the car so that they can move the vehicle later for you. This is a 2-hour different situation. So the firefighters are out here, but I want to show you this. Do you see that in the background there? There's another structure that's on fire. I'm not exactly what that is, but that could be a home. We know there are a lot of condominiums and homes up in the hills here in Pacific Palisades off of Sunset Boulevard and Palisades Drive. But this is the situation. We're going to keep our eye on this. It looks like firefighters are making some progress up to this section since they dozed their way through here. Glenn and Lou?
Well, looking back up, so, can you tell how close those two houses are together, the one that's on fire and the one next door? It looks like there's some space between them, but kind of hard to tell from here.
There is, yeah, Glenn, there is space in between these homes. It's not like they're back to back right next to each other. But it's one of those situations that even if the house next door is up in flames, as you see there, and the next door neighbor, the problem is the wind. Really, you said earlier, the whack-a-mole situation, that's because the embers have been flying absolutely everywhere. One thing you know, the house looks great and there are no flames, then suddenly an ember lights up in the backyard in a palm tree or on their wooden deck or something like that on the dry brush. And then next thing you know, we turn around 5 minutes later, the house is up in flames. So as you see here, I don't know if you can tell on live television, but the smoke is very intense. Now the fires over here, look at this, is the hillside. There's a shopping center right in front of it. This is igniting once again. So the wind keeps on fueling the fire, and firefighters have been going out with their hoses, hitting a palm tree, hitting the hillside, hitting a house with the fire hoses. And then as they leave the area to go to the next house or the next fire, it reignites. So we're in that situation where it's, I would say this is a 360-degree situation where everything keeps on going up in flames. Look at that. The flames are once again intensifying. That's because of the winds. You thought you were done with it, but you know, the firefighters, this is what they're dealing with all afternoon long. So once they put out a fire, it starts back up again, another 5 minutes, 10 minutes later. So that's, well, okay, Armando, turn back around. So I was talking about the winds. So look at that. It is blowing all of that smoke. The winds are intensifying, and the flames are just going back up. So Glenn, to your point, even though the houses are not back to back, there is space in between. The wind is just carrying everything everywhere. We're seeing embers flying to the palm trees, into the brush, all over the place. So that's an ongoing problem, not only here in the Pacific Palisades, but all throughout LA County and Ventura counties.
Yeah,
so that's a big deal.
And also, Casey, you had talked about that the winds are not going anywhere.
No, and they're actually going to peak tonight into early tomorrow morning. So we think this is bad. Like, I hate to say this, but we're facing the possibility of this happening in other parts of Southern California. And firefighters, they're having such a difficult time getting this under control because we continue to see these little embers just flying around and starting new fires, which they can't contain right away because they're concentrating on something else. So as far as worst case scenario, we're living it.
Well, I can see, looking at your wind map too over here. I mean, it's like a perfect corridor.
Yeah.
For this wind to sweep right down into Pacific Palisades and the Malibu, Topanga area.
Yeah, those northeasterlies right now, I mean, double digits for so many. And then behind the numbers, when you see those colors, the purple we're looking at, that's 50-mile-per-hour gusts. And we continue to see some gusts very strong. And of course, the higher in elevation you go, the stronger those gusts are getting. But, you know, as Lauren had mentioned earlier, the winds at the ground level, not as strong as she had expected them to be. And she's right. When you go 20 feet high into those ridge tops, those winds and those gusts are even stronger. And that's the danger. And as we've seen time and time again from these wildfires, you know, they can create their own weather patterns as well. So again, worst case scenario is the best way to describe this.
And again, you're looking at an earlier picture. I mean, all that smoke, and again, they're gonna get this all the way down to Palos Verdes Estates, and maybe even beyond. That smoke is going to go all the way down there.
Yeah, this is a view from Santa Monica. That's what we were just looking at.
Well, and one thing we've also been talking about this entire day is that it's not specific to Pacific Palisades, you know, so just heads up, if you are in a fire-prone area, just know that the winds are not going anywhere, and just do everything you can to get prepared in case something like this happens at your house tonight or tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon. And I think the lesson today is to evacuate immediately and don't.
It's well known that life insurance is designed to pay tax-free cash to your loved ones in the event that you die. But there
Yes, Glenn and Lou, we mentioned earlier that the city of Santa Monica, to assist with the Palisades Fire evacuations, closed the westbound 10 at Lincoln Boulevard and northbound PCH from Santa Monica. They are asking people to avoid non-essential travel to the northern portions of the city to help facilitate those evacuations and to help the first responders. So just taking a quick look at traffic conditions on Google Maps and using a couple other apps. It's a nightmare on the 10 if you're anywhere near the 10 and the 405, basically from the Getty all the way down through let's say to Playa Vista, the traffic is backed up because of that closure. Anything leaving Santa Monica, the traffic is pretty backed up. Again, City of Santa Monica said that was out of precaution to help with these evacuations from this Palisades fire, which is now 770 plus acres. And as you guys keep talking about, this is not just a Palisades issue. The power shutoffs, the emergency power safety shutoffs are still being considered for many SoCal Edison customers here in Southern California and even in Northern California, Kern County, Santa Barbara County, Central California there. LADWP is still monitoring thousands of outages throughout Southern California. So they're not saying any of these outages are because of an imminent fire. Of course, it's out of precaution in a high fire danger. And they say this is really a last resort method for preventing these fires in such a critical time weather-wise. They send crews out to check each line that's been shut off to make sure there's no damage to the equipment. If there's debris on the ground, they say do not get near it. Call 911 immediately if you see power lines down. And I just want to mention, we do not know the cause of the Palisades fire. That has not been discussed. Obviously, it's ongoing. Emergency crews are still dealing with people in buildings and in evacuations. I've had a couple people on social media ask, how did this start? We don't know yet. But as far as the wind and its effects on all of Southern California, thousands of people are in the path of potential power shutoffs. SoCal Edison, LADWP, all saying that's a precautionary measure. Glenn and Lou.
All right, Samantha, thanks for those updates. We appreciate it. We're approaching the 3 o'clock newscast here for KTLA. We've been covering this Palisades fire since early this morning, breaking out in the 10 o'clock hour. We have seen evacuations. We've seen vehicles back to back on Palisades Drive, and an incredible scene where a bulldozer now late this afternoon has come in to clear a road of vehicles that were abandoned by drivers trying to escape the fires and trying to evacuate. And of course, we can't say exactly what was going through their mind, but we're assuming that they were terrified, seeing flames on both sides, possibly behind them. And literally, that traffic was not moving. It was one way in, one way out. So Sunset Boulevard was packed. Then this road is trying to hit Sunset to go left or right. And so that light there or not, the cars were just not moving. And so some hundreds of people left and abandoned their cars. And so that bulldozer came through, you're seeing there on the right-hand side, and literally moved the cars to clear a path. Something, I mean, really never, ever seen.
Yeah, clearing the path with, and behind it up in the hill, there was a house on fire, that
yes.
You know, they couldn't get to.
Yes.
When we took over at 11 a.m. this morning, this fire was about 200 acres. Then it was 300. You see now it is more than 770 acres. And this is a perfect windstorm for this type of thing to happen. And unfortunately, Palisades Drive is one way in and one way out. And that's what caused this traffic jam of people trying to evacuate as, you know, emergency personnel were trying to get up there.
Yeah, that whole side's about to pop up. Going over there. We only got two engines coming. So I got a garden hose. What we got?
Ladies and gentlemen, we are watching live the Palisades Fire, now 800 plus acres. It just began a few hours ago, and this has rapidly grown, now destroying homes, and embers are flying everywhere. So pop-up fires are everywhere in this region. The situation is uncontrolled, and it is only going to get worse before it gets better. that is the update. We're going to be moving around from live footage from different sources. So enjoy the wildfire.
Right now, this is the direction as you move further into the Pacific Palisades neighborhood. Beyond this would be where you start getting into town and the high school and that sort of thing. I have heard from my husband that further in that direction, there are homes burning in our neighborhood that he has physically seen with his eyes. So that's in the area of off of Bienvenida. I don't have the exact addresses there, but there is some damage to homes there. Let's flip back around. The firefighters gave you a street name of Paseo Miramar here in terms of the locator of the area that we're in. I don't know exactly what street that house is, but that one is just a total loss. This is so heartbreaking. You know, I have to say, we cover so many of these fires and so many of these communities are so hard hit. It does feel different when it is a community that you live in and that you drive past these homes every day. My heart is just breaking for people that are, you know, struggling right now. And it's such a chaotic situation with the cars that were abandoned that we've been showing you and that are now being physically moved out of the way by heavy machinery. And this just one of the homes that is a total loss at this hour. So we're going to keep moving around and trying to bring you new information. For now, that's the latest live here. I'll send it back to you.
All right. Thanks, Lauren. And just looking on a map, Paseo Miramar, where that house is on fire, she was talking about. We talked earlier about Calvary Christian School, that they probably had some kind of damage with their preschool because kids had to be evacuated. Behind Calvary Christian is a green space, and then behind that is the neighborhood where Paseo Miramar is, heading down closer to the beach. So that's unfortunately the situation we're looking at now. Again, some very high-end, expensive homes.
Sunset, and about an hour ago there was bumper to bumper traffic as people were fleeing the flames. Traffic control came in, but as I said, most people had opted to evacuate earlier. And I also just spoke to a woman who told me she got the evacuation order. She lives in the neighborhood you see over there where all the smoke is, which is something over there is currently burning. She told me that she got the evacuation order at 10:30 and she left then. So she had a bag with her, but she's been standing here on Sunset just watching and hoping it doesn't reach her home. As far as she can tell, it looks like it's still burning above her neighborhood, not right in her neighborhood. So she's hoping that the winds shift directions and that the flames blow back from where they just burned through. That would be the best case scenario, but a lot of very anxious people here. We also saw a woman who came to the roadblock who was also desperate to get through. She says she was trying to get to her husband who's up the road, whose leg is in a cast, so he can't drive and he can also not walk out. The LAPD was also working with her to try to get her to her husband. So that's what we're seeing at this hour. A lot of very anxious people, a lot of stress, and unfortunately, a lot of flames as well. Let's send it back to you.
So many terrifying personal stories you're hearing out there. Christy, thank you so much. Welcoming to our coverage, we have Alex Michelson now. Good to have you.
Thank you so much. Our thanks to Sandra Endo, who's been on this air for several hours, has now been relieved, and I'll pick up the coverage with Marla for the foreseeable future here on Fox 11. If you're just joining us, a massive fire in Pacific Palisades. We warned about this last night when we were talking about the forecast that if there was a fire that broke out at any point, it could get very big, very fast. Unfortunately, that happened. This fire breaking out around 10:30 this morning.
It was telling people to get out in some parts because the fire was getting too bad. So that's something else to consider here. It's not just people. We keep saying we don't know what we would do in that kind of situation, but now we're hearing they may have been ordered to get out because the flames were surrounding them at some point. Still working to verify that as well. Governor Newsom emphasizing on social media that people need to have a fire kit ready to go in emergency situations. I believe it was Melanie we spoke with earlier who was talking about how she put her photos and videos on a thumb drive and put that on their keychain. And what a brilliant idea to keep those memories and beloved family moments safe in an event like this. We're checking in on traffic still, looking pretty bad around Santa Monica, basically also on the 405 from around the Getty down to the Santa Monica area, because Santa Monica, the city, closed the 10 at Lincoln to help people evacuate from Pacific Palisades. So Governor Newsom in town, as you may recall, President Biden was supposed to be holding an event here in Southern California today. We're hearing that was postponed because of the fires and because of the wind. So maybe that's why Governor Newsom was already in Southern California. We're just seeing that on social media from the governor's office. Keeping an eye on all the power outages, the potential planned safety outages. They call them the PSPS situation here in Southern California. SoCal Edison saying 8% of its customers are within a region that may have power shutoffs. So it's just a reminder, Glenn and Lou, to have those emergency kits ready to go. Usually we're talking about that in the case of an earthquake, always a reminder to have emergency food, water, etc. ready to go. But today it's a reminder because of the fire in the Palisades.
Yep.
And as you can see, boy, look at the skyline.
Yeah.
Is that downtown? That's downtown Los Angeles?
I believe that's from the parking garage here at KTLA. Yes, looking downtown.
Okay.
Yeah, the air quality is going to be so atrocious. Remember when we first got on at 11, it basically was an image from LAX.
Yeah.
And that huge plume of smoke all along the ocean in the Palisades. You couldn't help but not see it from pretty much anywhere in our city. And it happened so quickly. You know, it's still undetermined as to how this started. But it started and quickly grew from 20 to 200 to 300, and now 770 is our latest assessment.
On the left side of your screen there, that is now looking at LAX.
Wow.
It almost looks like evening or afternoon, you know,
Mhm.
as the sun is setting because of that heavy smoke throughout Southern California. Also just wanted to mention that LA Police Department is still on tactical alert, which means they can free up resources to go help in a wind or fire situation like we're seeing.
Mhm.
And there are more than 100 officers dispatched to help.
A wild day, and obviously this is only the beginning. So you can see the sky. I would say that's the most impressive, just how ominous it looks. And the wind gusts every once in a while will almost knock you off your feet, and they haven't even really been that strong considering what's to come. But yeah, we've got a lot of first responders from Orange County to Los Angeles to LA County, and a lot of police officers just filing in here. It's taken a bit, you guys, as you can imagine, to get here for them. The traffic was a nightmare. It's finally moving now, but we've seen you can't really see it anymore because you can't even make out the Santa Monica Mountains, but you were just a few minutes ago, you could see active flames just right down the road from here, basically. So to show that the fire is spreading to now more than 800 acres. So as soon as this presser starts, we will, of course, let you know right away so that you can tune in and hear the very latest. And we're expecting that in hopefully 20 minutes.
Yeah, I know it's busy there. And of course, when that happens, we'll bring that to our viewers live. And now this is a really sad, devastating live picture here. And you can see the firefight of this beautiful home, two-story home, it looks like. I don't have an exact location. Maybe we can get that. Where this live camera is in the Palisades, but obviously this home is at this point looking like a potential total loss as the fire crews there, LAFD, they're scrambling to put out those flames. And Alex, if you can see, obviously the flames shooting through that second story, but on the back of the house, you wonder.
With Gene King. There were so many cars in the road that were abandoned that they had to take a bulldozer and move those cars out of the way so that the fire trucks and other emergency vehicles can get up to try to fight this fire, which is wind driven as best they can. And again, as we mentioned earlier, it's kind of like whack-a-mole. It flares up in one spot because of flying embers, and they try to contain it, and then it starts burning somewhere else. And it's unfortunately, it's not a battle that you're going to win. You just try to do the best you can to contain it which our firefighters are the best in the world at doing this, fighting these fires that get out of control like this. But it's going to be a lot of damage to total up when this is over with.
It was really, on a positive note, if we can find a silver lining in any of this, especially when Lauren and Jean were down on Palisades Drive and everyone was freaking out and there was the traffic jam and everyone didn't know what to do. You saw a lot of residents and people helping one another and assisting. At one point, it looked like someone had maybe even run out of gas, which is a great reminder to everyone, including myself, to keep gas in your car. They had to push someone's car kind of out of the way. We're assuming she was running out of gas, but just seeing others help one another in times like this was really nice to see, but really sad as well to see, elderly people with masks on and canes and carrying a dog or carrying a cat in a backpack and just sort of aimlessly not knowing where to go. Like you get down to the end of Palisades Drive and you're at Sunset. Okay, great. You're there, but you're on foot. Like, what do you do now? Right. Yeah.
And there's also, we were told an assisted living facility for seniors. And, a lot of those people were still in the building. And, having my mother live in one of those places, I know it's like there's not enough staff to get all those people out and get them out safely.
And that quickly.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, it's impossible. So it's like they got to remain in place till you can get up enough personnel up there to try to move them out and move them someplace safe.
And then that other guy saying that they helped one of their neighbors, an elderly lady who basically was on her deathbed and her husband was not mobile in terms of being able to help. He had a cane and they kind of lost track of him. I'm sure he's safe, but they literally had to pick up her mattress. She wasn't mobile. So they had to literally pick up her mattress. Don't know where they put it. Maybe they put it in a truck or something, but things like that, just like checking on your neighbors. A great reminder too, to, just be in touch with your neighbors. We all have families and we all have family plans and routes and keys and things like that. But in times like this, when you're at work possibly, and this breaks out in your neighborhood, to have like a connection, a friend, a neighbor that you trust that you can leave a key with or give information to, or at least have their telephone number to get information. When things like this happen, that's the importance of community.
Yeah. By the way, that shot on your left, it's not downtown Los Angeles, it's actually Century City.
Oh, wow.
I could see it on the big board over there a second ago, and you can see the amount of smoke behind Century City and Santa Monica that's now hovering, over the ocean at this point in Santa Monica Bay. And it's going to be a while clearing that out. Casey, can you give us an update on the winds?
Absolutely. So this is what we're seeing from all across SoCal. This is one of those fires where no matter where you are, you're seeing this from a distance somewhere. So let's talk about the temperatures though, because this is what happens. Usually those Santa Anas, those winds, they warm up as they descend down the mountain, which is why we're seeing warmer temperatures along the coast than we are in places like the Inland Empire. Here's how much we've changed in the last 24 hours. So those inland spots seeing the dramatic effects of this really, really cool system with that Arctic air that is traveling in from Canada. So here's that cutoff low again coming from Canada. So the air is really cold and it's so drying. Now, as this high pressure approaches, we get what we call a really tight pressure gradient. So notice how those lines are really close together. They'll stay close together tomorrow again. And then as that system starts to move out, they'll kind of ease up a bit. So that's when the winds for us will start dying down. But that's looking at the big picture as to why we're seeing all this. Double-digit sustained wind speeds right now for a lot of SoCal. I would say most of SoCal. And again, the colors that we see underneath those numbers, these are the gusts. And on this map, when we see purple, those are 45 to 50 mile an hour gusts. That's as strong as this goes. We have seen and will continue to see gusts even stronger because again, the winds have not peaked yet. They will late this evening into early tomorrow morning. So everything that we're dealing with now, there are stronger winds to come. So we're going to continue to see these widespread, really strong gusts and mainly the typical spots that see these Santa Anas. But just know because of what we call a mountain wave effect, that there's so much support in the upper atmosphere that the winds are going over some of these mountain communities into those valleys and areas that don't normally see these strong gusts. There's a really good shot are going to be impacted later today and early tomorrow. So now we're into early tomorrow morning, and notice how we're continuing to see the strong winds. Even areas like the South Bay will see some strong gusts tomorrow, and this takes us through most of the day tomorrow. Winds finally start dying down late Wednesday afternoon. By Wednesday evening, mountains will be the ones who continue to see the strong winds. High wind warning in effect, very widespread. This is where we're seeing sustained northeasterlies, 35 to 55 miles an hour. Gusts 60 to 80 miles an hour, with isolated gusts in this spot, 80 to 100 miles an hour possible. And again, hurricane force winds, category 1, starts at 74 miles an hour. All across SoCal today, we've seen gusts stronger than that, and will continue until tomorrow evening. If you've been with us throughout the day, these numbers have started to dip dramatically. Again, those cold northeasterly winds drying out the atmosphere. These were in the 30s for the most part when we started the show at 11 o'clock. So they'll continue to become lower, giving us even more elevated fire danger. So it's no surprise that we have this fire weather warning in effect until Thursday evening for pretty much all of Southern California. And we'll take a quick peek, though, at the LA Basin just to show you that we're not done with the winds.
They weren't sure how to, and fortunately neighbors or family members were able to get to them and literally walking them out of their homes. We've seen a lot of that.
I want to bring into the conversation right now my pal Joel Pollack, who is a regular on our political show, The Issue Is. He's with Breitbart News, but more importantly, he's a Santa Monica resident and a husband and a father who lives in the middle of this neighborhood that has been evacuated. Joel joins us now live. Joel, thanks for calling in. First off, how are you doing? How's your family doing?
We are fine. We're in Santa Monica right now, but we actually live in the Palisades near where the fire is. So we are feeling fortunate that we were able to leave in time, but obviously we're very concerned for our neighbors in our neighborhood.
Talk about what it was like when you were leaving, what it looked like, and the vibe with the rest of your neighbors.
So our nanny was walking our 3-month-old and smelled smoke at about 10:30 and sent my wife and I a text message saying that she smelled smoke and that it might be nearby. So I said, okay, I'm coming home. And I texted my wife and the nanny and said, let's just pack up in case we need to evacuate. And I don't know exactly why, because we've had high winds before and there have been wildfires somewhat nearby before, but I had a feeling that this might be more serious. As soon as I pulled onto PCH from Santa Monica, I saw the column of smoke and realized right away this was going to be a very big fire. And we packed everything up in about 15 minutes. My wife went to the local school, Marquez Charter, which is an LAUSD school, to pick up one of our kids, and we left. When we were leaving, the first fire engines were coming into the community from other communities. They were setting up their positions, and the traffic was starting to build up on Sunset. And we were able to get out of the neighborhood, but I understand that many others were not. And people actually abandoned their cars along the side of Sunset Boulevard, which made it even harder to evacuate. So we feel fortunate that we got out in time, but there really have to be some improvements in how we handle these situations, because there should have been police directing traffic. They should have issued an evacuation order a lot earlier than they did. And there was a problem at the school where initially they were asking parents to fill out forms to take their kids out of school rather than just getting the kids out of school as soon as possible. I don't think that we were prepared as a city for a fast-moving wildfire like this. Individually, I think people did very well. And as we were leaving, we offered neighbors rides and people were in high spirits and they were cooperating. But I think it happened so quickly that a lot of people were just unable to react. And our systems as a city, as a county, and a state, I guess, or as a school district also, they just weren't ready. And that's the feeling a lot of us had, that this really could have been handled better.
Yeah, I mean, Joel, Marla Tay is here. Good to have you. I'm sorry it's under these conditions. We were just showing those images of the abandoned vehicles, and we got word that at one point, one of these roads, and this may have been the one, where it was literally curb to curb of cars that were abandoned. And to get access for the firefighters. They had to use bulldozers to literally bulldoze the stranded vehicles off to the side. So all of those vehicles are now damaged as a result. Glad you're safe. Any word on the integrity of your home right now as it relates to where those flames are?
Our house, unfortunately, is directly in the path of the fire. When we left, it was about a half mile up the hill, but we're not sure it's going to stay that way. And we are anxiously checking cameras and things like that to see what happens. We do want to thank all of the first responders and firefighters who are out there trying to keep the neighborhood safe. But unfortunately, we know that some of the homes further up the hill have been damaged or destroyed. And we're hoping that that doesn't happen, but we are glad we have fire insurance, which is also another issue. More people need fire insurance in California, but hopefully things will turn out for the best. We're just glad that everybody in our family is safe, and we're thinking of all the people who are still trying to get out.
You're the father of several young kids. How do you talk about this with them?
Well, we just had to pick up one of our kids from preschool, and we explained to her that we couldn't go home tonight because there is a fire near our house, but we'll go home when it's over, and the firefighters are going to put it out. And she seemed satisfied by that explanation, and it's a bit of an adventure for them because they don't understand yet what's happening. But our eldest, who's at a different school, heard from a classmate that her home had burnt down because the classmate's mother inadvertently called my daughter's phone instead of my wife. And so my daughter, who's 12, panicked and had
school itself, but I saw the whole wooded or the whole hill area around the school. There's a new home build happening right above it too. That's all wood. It's not finished yet. Yeah. That was all on fire. And so when we drove down the hill, I only saw the flames on the left side. Mm-hmm. 2 minutes later, the whole right side was on fire. And that was right at Calvary Christian. I saw students running out of the school in their cell phones and running down toward Sunset and the PCH.
Well,
because
Kelsey,
there's no service there, so people can't contact somebody.
You did the right thing. We've spoken to several people today, including a former firefighter, and he basically implied that you did the right thing and that you left even before the evacuation was reported. And if you see the smoke or if you see the flames, your home, you've got to get out of there. And you could have been one of those ones that was stuck. You know, you were stuck, but like you didn't have to at least leave your vehicle.
I mean, New Year's night, there was a fire up in the Palisades. So we had actually already had a bag packed. And the sitting there doing work, the sky just turned red and looked out the window and saw the massive flames and got in the car.
Yeah.
Kelsey, you know, so Palisades Drive, you know, it basically dead ends into that neighborhood. Have you ever, has it ever gone through your head like, wow, you know, if there's a fire, there's only one way out of here?
Absolutely. I mean, I know there's like a fire road up there, but I imagine that's for fighting the fires and not necessarily traffic in and out. Of course, I thought there's only one way in and out, but I thought, well, if there's only one way in and out, then that's going to be super important to make sure that it's protected, it runs smoothly, and it's prioritized on making sure people can get out.
Yeah, that is the most important thing.
It's so sad. We're looking at images of just a couple of homes burning and then just a huge plume of smoke that's still over our city. It's just, we're so happy that you're safe. And thanks for helping the elderly lady.
Of course. Thank you guys for covering it.
All right. Are you staying with family or?
No, I'm from the East Coast. Only moved out here about a year and a half ago. So got a hotel.
Okay, good for you.
All right, well, best of luck. We'll keep
PCH in the Pacific Ocean, of course, and it's high up there, and we're seeing those flames, those active flames, the massive plume of smoke, and then, of course, the foreground, all of those homes that are under evacuation warnings and or orders.
We're expecting a press conference, including the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, in the next 5 minutes or so. When that begins, we will take you there live. In the meantime, we want to bring Christy Fajardo back into the conversation. She's standing by. Christy, what are you seeing from your vantage point right now?
Well, we're actually at Sunset and Temescal Canyon, and we just got a big gust of wind, and it kicked up. Take a look here behind me, all of the smoke and dust and ash, and it started to obscure flames, but that whole hillside is on fire. We've been watching as it gets closer and closer to Sunset Boulevard. And today, sadly, we've heard a lot of tales of heartbreak, people who have lost their homes, who are evacuating and say they also saw neighbors' homes on fire. But there's also stories of heroism, including one man that we spoke to a short while ago. His name is Patrick Hildebrand, and I want to share with you with what he told us.
No, it's at your risk. No.
So you got some people out?
I
Can you hear me? Can you guys hear my voice? You guys hear my voice? Check two, check two. Okay, so I don't know why. It's very bizarre. But you can't hear the audio. You cannot hear the audio of the press conference coming up here. Yeah, well, we need to get this press conference up, so I'm going to end the stream and I will restart it with the press conference. I apologize, folks. Let's see if we can do this.